Seeing you, I guess. Are you around when these? Oh,
But Pensacola was technically founded earlier, but it was wiped out by a hurricane and had about a 15-year period where it was uninhabited until people resettled it.
It's not continuous.
So I was talking to the former mayor of Pensacola during the snowstorm. And he
Good
said,
afternoon, everybody.
not only are
Can you
we
hear
the
me?
oldest city, but now we've got much more snowfall than St. Augustine.
You're muted.
Build the rivalry.
well, besides the first Florida city to be wiped out by a hurricane.
Okay. Hi, can you all hear me? The Zoom people, yeah? Thumbs up? Yeah, I don't think. One minute.
Yes.
That's right.
So it clearly makes it clearly a Floridian city.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today. It's beautiful afternoon in Sarasota, Florida. It is 3:02, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Fitzpatrick, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Anderson, Trustee Bauerlein,
Present.
Trustee Jaco,
Here.
Trustee Karp,
Here.
Trustee Kessler. He's on. Trustee Mackey.
Here.
Trustee McDonald.
Here.
Trustee Mickelson.
Here.
Trustee Patterson. Trustee Rufo.
Here.
Trustee Spalding.
Here.
Chair Jinks.
I'm here.
Vice Chair Cristaldi.
Present.
Thank
Quorum.
you.
Quorum is present.
Okay, and we've been publicly noticed?
Yes.
I would just ask you all to rise at this time and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is the time that we will have public comment. The process at New College of Florida is if you wish to speak, you needed to have submitted your request to speak on a listed agenda item at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I believe we have 6 to 7 people who have registered for public comment. Each commenter will have 1 minute. Ms. Fitzpatrick will call your name. You will come to the microphone. There will be a countdown timer for you. And at the end of your time, we ask that you yield the mic to the next person who signed up to speak. Ms. Fitzpatrick.
First up today, we have Ginger Lyon, followed by Rodrigo Diaz, and then Mike Sanderson.
Good afternoon. My name is Ginger Lyon of Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a 1970s graduate of New College and of Emory University School of Nursing. We, the alumni, love New College. We want to see it on a strong and stable course. The whole community, across generational, geographic, and ideological lines, is watching for a detailed and meaningful presidential evaluation, one that takes a more candid approach to our current challenges. If President Corcoran were a student, he'd be receiving a rigorous narrative evaluation, such as one I received 50 years ago, and not a rubber stamp. We ask that the same standards apply. Thank you.
Trustees, today you will decide whether to award President Corcoran an annual incentive compensation payment. It would have been better if there had been more input from staff, faculty, and students. I have 3 statements. First, trustees, visit campus more often, individually and unannounced. Have a meal in Hamilton Center or visit the library. Introduce yourself to students and faculty and talk with them. Give people your personal email address at every opportunity. This should be an essential part of a trustee's fiduciary responsibility. Second, President Corcoran, will you declare today that you will serve the remaining 3 years of your term and not run for public office in 2026? Third, Mr. President, could you tell us what your administration is doing to celebrate Black History Month? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Sanderson. On Corcoran's evaluation, I'm reminded of an old joke. These 2 business guys are talking, and the first guy says, "My dog food company is going out of business." And the second guy says, "But you had such a good product launch. You had all the influencers posting. You had that amazing Super Bowl ad. Why's your dog food company going out of business?" The first guy says, "The dogs won't eat it." You're not evaluating a vision from 2 years ago. You're evaluating what Richard Corcoran has done. And speaking of business and business plans, the Board of Governors. Is anyone today going to explain what Governor Szilagyi alleged on the Budget Committee 2 weeks ago in Jacksonville? That this board approved illegal spending. I was there and there were gasps in the audience from the administrators across the SUS. The clip is linked on mikesand.com. But anyway, last I heard, admissions are down, applications are down, but the good news is accepted applications are down even more. Which nothing matters if the dogs won't eat the dog food.
Next up, we have Karen Stack and then Peter Schellhorn.
Apparently, clear cutting and sodding the Uplands Preserve is producing additional adverse consequences. Twice during the last 2 weeks, herbicide and fertilizer has been sprayed onto your sports field. The MDSD for one of the applied products advises the following: keep people and pets away during spraying and until dry. There were students literally sitting on the field during the application. Minimize risks to sensitive areas, including bodies of water, Sarasota Bay, by maintaining a 25-foot buffer and avoid spraying on windy days. Placement of pesticide application warnings. Here's a full-sized copy of the only sign we saw planted in midfield. The field adjacent to the Marine Biology Center trains the next generation of scientists and conservation leaders. How ironic is that? Not to mention disrespectful and unhealthy for the New College community and Uplands residents. Thank you.
I'm Peter Schellhorn. President Corcoran, at the last meeting, in an exchange with Dr. McDonald, you stated that my comments regarding the location of the Home Depot-sized building that It created a controversy that came out of thin air and does not exist. You stated that the building in question will be a long dirt walkway as shown in the renderings, that nothing has changed, and you will say no to any creations that don't exist. However, in my defense, the New College website currently shows a massive building rendered in the Uplands Preserve in both the business plan and the PowerPoint presentation for a new master plan. Please forgive me for being confused and suspicious. I am heartened by your restatement that the preserve will not be disturbed and that you are a man of your word. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're going to move on to the Presidential Evaluation Standing Committee. Today, we are here to discuss the goals and objectives on awarding President Corcoran his annual incentive compensation of up to $200,000. The goals and objectives were outlined in the contract between President Corcoran and New College of Florida, the board. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Vice Chair Cristaldi to discuss the item before the board today. Vice Chair Cristaldi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As my fellow trustees might recall, the Board of Governors Regulation 1.001, titled University Board of Trustees Powers and Duties, requires us, the Board of Trustees of each state university, to conduct an annual evaluation of the president and to submit the evaluation for review to the Board of Governors. President Corcoran's contract has a similar requirement in it. The evaluation must address the president's performance and progress in achieving the goals established by this Board of Trustees. In furtherance of that obligation, a presidential evaluation committee was impaneled by our chair. It included Chair Jenks, who also served as committee chair, as well as myself and trustees Anderson, Jacquot, Karp, Mickelson, Patterson, and Rufo. That ad hoc committee was charged with evaluating the performance of President Corcoran during the past 24-25 fiscal year. And in your packet and materials, there was presidential performance goals and evaluation that provide an overall report of the president's progress toward meeting his performance goals and incentive compensation metrics as outlined in his contract. There were 8 areas of evaluation that the committee considered. Those included his milestones regarding increase in fundraising for New College, his milestones regarding increase of campus life, inclusive of improvements to student housing, food, and adding sports programs, his re-envisioning the campus master plan, his increase in campus safety and security, his ability to engage with faculty to recruit and add additions for growth and excellence, to reach milestones regarding an increase in enrollment growth by the end of the 5th year to 1,200 students, his ability to enrich academic programs and offerings, and his ability to increase second-year retention metric growth by 85% over that 5-year span. The materials, Madam Chair, are very detailed in some fact information. I don't know that it's productive here to read or go through every one of those. The committee did meet at length and had a robust discussion around those presidential goals. Overall found that the president met and I think in all cases exceeded each of those goals. And the recommendation from the committee is to grant a $200,000 bonus consistent with the contract today. So I believe that comes, Madam Chair, as a committee recommendation. Many of the committee members are here present today as well. Happy to entertain any questions.
Anybody have any questions of Vice Chair Cristaldi? Yes, Trustee McDonald.
Yes, I have one question. Every year, the faculty fills out an evaluation of the president, and the committee that's reviewing the president is supposed to get that evaluation, or at least the raw material of that evaluation. I'm just wondering, was there a discussion of this material? by the committee?
There was when you guys came out with, I think you come out in the spring with it. Last spring it came out and it was passed to the trustees and it was made available.
So my question is, did this committee consider that evaluation by the faculty during your evaluation of the president for his compensation?
I can address the issue, and I'll speak for myself. I'm not speaking necessarily on behalf of the other committee members, but I was aware of and had historically reviewed that information and took it into consideration in both my review of the evaluation materials and the discussion we had at the committee meeting. The committee meeting discussion was somewhat lengthy, and so I don't recall specifically if that was discussed at the meeting, but I can at least speak for myself that it was, I was aware of it and I did consider it in voting on and making the recommendation.
Anyone else?
Any other questions? Any other questions?
I read it, Pat, and I looked at it, and I think there was a very low participation rate, as I recall from the spring. And one of the first, they asked basically a survey. One of the early survey questions was rate his performance and his ability to influence the legislature and the governor in getting funds. And I think less than 20% of the people said I was good at it. So I didn't read much further.
I see.
And I'll say I did read it and I gave it weight, and I do think that the input of the faculty on matters at this university is very important. So I didn't, in my comments, mean to diminish it at all. So it was important to me, and I did review it. I did view it in light of the transition that's been happening over the past few years. But I think your question was, was it taken into consideration? And I would say, at least for myself, affirmatively, it was taken seriously, and I did take it into consideration.
Thank you for your response. But my question was it discussed? That's all. Thanks.
I don't recall one way or another.
As a member of the committee, I did not receive any documents about it, nor was I aware.
It doesn't come out under your presidency until I think April.
Okay.
But last April when it came out, Grace was given a copy and made fully aware of it. Everyone was given a copy. Everyone read it.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, I think a motion is in order.
Great. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to recommend to the full board approval of President Corcoran's full annual incentive compensation of $200,000.
Madam Chair,
Thank you.
I think the committee brings it to this full board as a recommendation. So I think you might just need a second, and the recommendation, and Ms. Fitzpatrick can correct me if I'm wrong from the meeting. I think the recommendation was to award the $200,000. The wording of up to $200,000 is what's permitted under the contract, but the committee recommendation was to award $200,000.
Trustee Cristalli, you're correct. It is a committee recommendation, and so the motion from Trustee Karp is sufficient.
Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion?
Just a quick comment. It's not the contract I would have written, but he does appear to have satisfied the 8 criteria.
Thank you. I would just like certainly on my own behalf and behalf of this board, thank President Corcoran for the monumental work that he's done and will continue to do. And would just thank him for keeping our students, faculty, and physical plant not only safe during 2 very bad hurricanes, Helene and Milton, the latter of which had its eye pass right over our campus, got everybody up and running and got this place put back together very quickly. So I thank you. Can we have a vote, please?
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
What was the vote of the committee?
It was unanimous.
It was a unanimous vote.
Unanimous. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We good? Vote?
You want a roll call?
Yeah, do a roll
Do a
call.
roll call.
Do a roll call, please.
Okay. Trustee Anderson? Trustee Bauerlein?
Yes.
Trustee Jaco?
Yes.
Trustee Karp?
Yes.
Trustee Kessler?
Yes.
Trustee Mackey?
Yes.
Trustee McDonald?
Yes.
Trustee Mickelson?
Yes.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Rufo?
Yes.
Trustee Spalding?
Yes.
Chair Jinks?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cristaldi?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows that this now will go be shared with the Board of Governors as required by the Board of Governors regulation. So we'll get that presented to the Board of Governors. All right. Next, we have the consent agenda. The materials have all been circulated to you. I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Trustee Carp, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Patterson, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 I would like to pull an item.
What is that?
The approval of the members of the NCF Foundation Board of Directors.
Okay,
Thank you.
Just from a housekeeping standpoint, next time that should occur before the vote's taken up, but it's chair's discretion. It seems like you're going to pull it.
it's fine. So everything else has been approved. All right, then we'll move into regular business, the approval of the new members of the NCF Foundation Board of Directors. Ms. Mickelson, what say you?
Yes, I would like clarification. The packet shows 9 foundation board members were approved, 5 at the August 2024 meeting and 4 at the December meeting. However, I only received 7 of the resumes in the packet. The 2 missing were Henry Anthony and Lawrence Bodish. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I was wondering why they weren't in the packet.
I can answer that.
Yep.
From my understanding, with the foundation board did approve those, all 9 of them, but 2 people dropped off after they withdrew their consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Entertain a motion in a second if there's further discussion.
So is there a motion to approve the new members to the NCF Foundation Board of Directors with the notice that the 2 names have been pulled?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee
Second.
Patterson. Okay, thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No? Okay. We'll let those foundation board members know that they've been approved. I think this puts us now over to the president's report. So with that, I will turn the proceedings over to President Corcoran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start first and foremost. I get asked a ton at everything I go to about, how is it working at New College? What do you think about this? There's new presidents that get hired at the Board of Governors. We have 2 new ones right now, both friends that I've talked to. And they always ask me how, give us some tips. And I say it in jest, but it's true. Get a wonderful board of trustees who's engaged, who understand academics, who understand higher education, who understand the business components. And it's a game changer. So I just want to say sincerely and from the bottom of my heart, working for you guys has been a rich blessing. And I just want to thank all of you guys for the day-to-day comments and texts and whatever might happen, to all your advice and counsel. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. On the presidential updates, we'll announce tomorrow the Socratic Stage Spring Series. There'll be some really big names that we announce, exciting names. And again, we're trying to, strike that balance where we have, expose our students to all the different aspects of dialogue and debate. And I think we're doing a really good job on that, but that'll be announced tomorrow. Obviously, there's some big names tonight. We have one with Professor Deneen from Notre Dame. He's taught at Notre Dame, Georgetown, Princeton. Fantastic. Wrote the book, The End of Liberalism, that even Barack Obama said was one of his recommended books for the year. I think he said, I don't agree with most of it, but what he does say is pretty stretching the mind and making us to try to understand what it means to create a good society, to live a good life. And so he'll be on stage tonight with our own trustee, who's the editor of First Things. And we're hoping this might be a long-term relationship with First Things, where we have some sort of annual debate and dinner and symposium. But obviously, Mark Bauerlein will be doing the introduction and the interview with Professor Deneen. So that's just an example. That's tonight, but we have just a ton of that lineup will be announced tomorrow. It'll be online, and it's very exciting. Our graduation speaker, who will also come, he's coming for multiple days, and it's Alan Dershowitz. We've announced it. Professor Dershowitz is also going to do some fundraising events for us around the community, which is fantastic. He's also going to participate in a Socratic stage and be available throughout the weekend for us. So we're super excited about that. And obviously, I think it goes without saying, I don't have to explain to you guys who Alan Dershowitz is. He's prolific in his writings and commentary. The campus master plan, I got a chance to catch Peter on his way out. That we should have the new draft shortly. Sorry, we're getting bombarded by bugs. We should have the new draft out shortly. To Peter's point, the waterfront is the same as you see it now with the field and the openness. In fact, I didn't get to tell Peter, but we're working with some of our alumni now on trying to do the largest replanting of mangroves in New College history. So now that we've gotten rid of the invasive species that were squashing and pushing and killing the mangroves, now it gives us the opportunity, now that they're coming back to full life, to plant more mangroves around them, which is also a resiliency benefit to the college, but it's also a tremendous benefit to the bay and to the campus. So that hopefully will be announced in the next 6 months as we move further along. But the master plan will come out, and we'll start the process again with the hearings. We're still in a good place, and so I think that'll ultimately come before you guys probably sometime early summer, hopefully. We have the ongoing projects. If you come, the greenhouses, we're going to break ground on the greenhouse. We're breaking ground on the Pritzker Marine Biology building. We've built a patio and re-windowed and everything. It looks out over on top of the brand new volleyball courts. The landscaping around the greenhouse is going in as we speak. We're going to have lettering on the bridge that says it's New College. It'll be hard to come to the airport with 4 to 5 million visitors and not know where we are with all of the new signage. The park in the front that was donated with a generous donation, and the baseball field that was given with a generous donation, both of those should be done no later than end of August. So the campus will, next time you guys visit, it should be just dramatically improved. On the growing money at the school, besides Professor Dershowitz coming and helping us, and some of these announcements that we have of people who are coming to the Socratic stage, we'll build fundraisers around those individuals too. In addition to that, the governor came out with his recommended budget, and it's one of the best. It's my favorite of the 3 years. We have there was 15 million in non-recurring that we got last year. He's converted that 15 to recurring, so we get it in perpetuity. It's just game changer in terms of hiring and improving and every aspect of the college. In addition to that, he gave us another 5 million in recurring, so it's a total of 20 recurring in this year budget. 10 non-recurring with flexibility, and 3 million for the Freedom Institute to get it off the ground. So it's a $33 million increase moving forward with the non-recurring becoming the recurring. So it's pretty special. We got to go through the legislature, and it's never easy. They've had some tense moments here in the last few weeks over some policy, but we have a great relationship with the House and the Senate and with the governor's office. So our hope is that those numbers will remain solid. He also put in the budget to transfer the management of the historic Ringling Museum from FSU to New College. Obviously, we'd be super excited about it. We think it's an amazing partnership in the making. We're a liberal arts school. They're just a beautiful arts museum, art museum, everything, grounds, historical buildings. So it'd be a wonderful fit. We'd be side by side. I think we could just create greater synergies and greater resources working together. And so I don't know where that goes, because that's got to go through the legislature too. But obviously, I think there's been a dialogue. If you listen to some of the Board of Governors meetings or some of the legislative meetings, the concept is, how do we make the state university system better? What does FSU need to do or be or receive in order to hit new heights? What does New College need to do or receive in order to hit new heights? And so I think these are the types of ideas that are going to start surfacing throughout the university system, but obviously this one is immensely beneficial to us. And we maintain constant transparency and dialogue with Florida State University, with the Ringling Museum, and say, as you know, as we hear things, we'll keep them informed, and if they hear things, they keep us informed. But that would obviously, it could be just an amazing 6 months or 4 months if they're done with session and we have $33 million and a partnership with Ringling could be just fantastic for our students and all those things that come with it: growth in enrollment, growth in faculty, growth in resources. We've been approached different times from a bunch of individuals from across the country with art collections who've asked us about our relationship with Ringling, and of course we put them, you know, very, very positively, that the relationship's great. But those could be really tremendous opportunities for us. We've reinstituted a dialogue with the airport. There's, you know, obviously been changes that have taken place, and so I think there's opportunities moving forward. And I would imagine at some point that issue is going to get resolved, 100% going to get resolved. It's just a matter of what it looks like and when. But I think it's going to be imminent. We also have the federal funding. We've obviously, remember last year the foundation bought on some additional lobbyists. We're looking strong for about $3 million for resiliency and boardwalk money across the waterfront. And we should hear about that in late spring, probably April, but it looks very, very positive. And continue to work. He's only been on the job, and I don't even want to say the exact number of days, but I'm going to say 90. But Professor Rohrbacher has just been a complete jolt of energy and knowledge, and working so closely with our director of admissions, our vice provost, David Rancourt, bringing on more hiring. We've already started the hiring process. We've had people come through campus already for interviews, and we'll continue to hopefully have another robust hiring season this year. A lot of which are some of which are replacement lines, but some are new lines based on the growth that we're seeing with our new enrollment. Our enrollment is right now we have applications are up, which is good. We have enrolled about 20 less this time than last year, but more than the 23 cycle. But part of that, I think, is you're seeing a greater degree of selectivity. So our SAT scores are up, you know, almost 80 points, and our GPA is at 4.1. Last year, I think we were at somewhere around 3.79, if I remember correctly. So the numbers are going up strongly, and we're also there's a greater proportion of first time in college. So the dip in that 21 is attributable more to transfers than first time in college, which we're not uncomfortable with that either. But I would say we're going to be 350 to 400 again, looking at the numbers and the pipeline. But we're also very, very hopeful that these numbers that we're seeing are sustainable and continue to hold and maintain. We have additional fundraisers coming up. We have our sports banquet that we did last year. It was very successful last year. We're hoping that will also be very successful and raise us, you know, $300,000 to $400,000 for the sports program. But it's going very well. And all in all, you know, if you were here, for those guys who you're not here, it's I think we've crossed the Rubicon where people are working together in a wonderful way, recognizing that we all want to be a great liberal arts school, and we might disagree at different times on who to hire or what to teach or what should be in the core or whatever, but we're all working together towards that great goal. And I don't care if it's a trustee meeting or a faculty meeting, there really is an energy on this campus that I haven't felt since initially being here, and it's very, very exciting. And I think if you wanted to call and randomly talk to other faculty or staff members, I think they would tell you it's beginning to feel very unified and very strong and moving forward to being the best liberal arts school. So that's my update. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Corcoran. At this time,
Madam Chair,
Yep.
I should have caught this, but we made a motion and a second on the consent agenda, and then we moved into the foundation board members. So if you would call a vote on the consent agenda, it's already been motioned and seconded.
Okay, so I'm calling a vote on the consent agenda after the New College Foundation Board of Directors piece had been pulled off.
To be voice.
So we can do this by a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No? Okay. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for and I'm sorry, there was a question?
Are you taking questions?
Yeah.
So I have Three
President will take questions.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
three-
Trustee
I have three
McDonald, you're
questions.
recognized to ask the president a question.
Thank you very much. My first is there a FEMA update?
Yes, there's two components that I'll say. One is we have to, Trustee McDonald, one, we have to do the insurance first for most of it. And so we're finishing up the insurance claim. I was talking to Trustee Mickelson. I can't remember the exact number for Ian, which happened like the year before I got here and these trustees were here. But I think the total number was somewhere in the ballpark of, I'm gonna say 3 million. Christy, you can correct me.
Little over $1 million.
A little over $1 million for and it was a fairly direct hit with Ian. And so when I got here, the staff that were here, the CFO, talking to other people, they're like, we just completely under submitted. That number should have been 300% more, 400% more. So what we've done after these three hurricanes, actually we had one in the spring, we have hired experts, insurance adjusters to come. They've gone through every building to see if anything was possibly relatable to the experts to the hurricane. And so I would imagine our FEMA claim and our insurance claim, then the FEMA claim will be somewhere in the ballpark. Again, I don't have the exact numbers, but I'd say $12 to $15 million. It's significant. And so we're on top of it. Our first FEMA claim will probably turn in because all of it has to go through insurance first. The part that doesn't go through insurance, which they don't reimburse for, is all of the cleanup that we did on the grounds. That went straight to FEMA, and so hopefully we'll get that first $2 million claim to FEMA here in the next 10 days. But we're going as fast as we can. You remember from the BOG meeting, there's a particular governor who's always very interested in New College, and he wanted to know how quickly we're doing. It's not even 90 days, and we're already turning in the first part of our FEMA claim. But the bigger claim, all of it will be very timely, and it will be a number that's worthy of what we should receive. In addition to that, we're also looking at FEMA that you can do a mitigation projects where they'll fund up to 75%. For hardening type purposes. And so we're also going through that whole process of what things can we harden and get 75%, and then we only have to come up with 25%.
So perhaps not unrelated, and what about the modular housing?
The modular housing took a hit. So what happened, with the wind damage related to Milton, not Helene, it separated parts of the portables. Water got in, creating mold. So we immediately moved the students out, and we have environmental engineers, the contractor that we originally contracted with, going through. It's going to necessitate new carpet, new mattresses, redoing, but it'll be in mint condition come the fall. And we're also, that's part of the FEMA claim and insurance claim in addition.
Got it. One last question. Do you foresee with the master plan process having engaging the community kind of as part of the decision-making procedure? Is there a timeline for meeting with the community, with the public, including people in the uplands, people,
we're
faculty, staff, etc.?
We're restarting that whole process. And even the process that we did last time, we invited the Uplands community, we invited the Indian Beach community, we reach out to all of their civic associations, what have you, invite them. We have 3 public hearings, and that'll all be part of the statutory process again.
Is there a date?
Well, but the first thing you do is you bring like a proposal of a master plan. And because of engineering issues and some architectural issues, we don't have that yet. I mean, what you've seen in the past is probably going to be 90% of what's proposed. That's what I was telling Peter. What you see on the waterfront is what would be in the proposal. But now we're working all the language that goes with the proposal, so we can hopefully get it through it expeditiously. But it should be forthcoming very shortly.
Thanks. That's all.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hi,
Trustee
I have
Mickelson.
2 questions. The first is about enrollment for spring. I see the numbers for students coming in, but I was wondering if you had a total number.
I think the total number is Dean Rancourt here. I want to say we were at 19 for the spring, correct, David?
For the total enrolled students at New College?
Oh, the total enrolled
Yeah.
students, I think we just, I was with Wei Mean talking about that. I think we were at 757.
Okay, thank you. And the second question, I know we've talked about the dorm building quite a bit. I was wondering if you had a timeline for when we would get started. Are we waiting until the master plan, or how is that?
The portables?
No, this would be
Regular
permanent
dorms.
yes.
Well, I think at the April meeting, hopefully we'll be able to give stronger updates on where we stand on all that. If I just gave you guys real fast, back of my head math, we're at 757. We're going to lose about 180 in graduation. We'll lose probably 50 in retention. Then we'll pick up a class of 350. If we're somewhere in the 950 range, we have about 200 minimum kids that always ask to live off campus. We allow them. So we need about 750 beds. And so what we're trying to do is see, we're very close, I think, with opportunities that exist to have the beds and not have to pay for the hotels, which would save us significant money. But it's just too soon, and I'll know more come April.
Okay, I'll check back in then.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you.
President Corcoran, if I can just clarify, the enrollment number is actually significantly higher than what you mentioned. So we're up to 836
Sorry.
right now. So just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
In fact, I thought maybe I said 757. I was thinking it was 857. Does that include the graduate students too?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Question?
Yes, Trustee Spalding.
Yeah, I had two questions, Richard. One is a technical one, which I'm sure you're quite qualified to answer as a former Speaker of the House. But a recurring appropriation, I assume that will recur as long as the current governor is proposing budgets. Is that correct?
No, it's permanent. It would be, you'd have to go back in if you're another governor or speaker or house member and quote unquote, what we would say, rip it out, which is
Interesting.
Which is not it recurring.
So Florida works very different in the U.S. Congress. You can't do that. A current house can't restrict a future house.
Well, we have that. We do have that rule. So, and technically, you're not, Trustee Spalding, binding the future legislature, because the future legislature can go in. Let's say it's $100 billion budget. They can say, I'm getting rid of 20 billion of spending. That's their prerogative. But
so
the
it
default
creates it as a part of the permanent baseline.
Yeah, it becomes exactly right.
Gotcha.
Correct.
And then my second question, can you give me an update on the discussions having to do with the core curriculum? That's not, it's we kind of gone through that and different things, and thematically,
after you guys,
not been settled.
After you approved it, it went to the Board of Governors for the final approval, and they approved all 12 universities, core curriculum. So we have the core curriculum. What we're allowed to do, Trustee Spalding, and I'll follow up with you as we're going through them, is you're allowed to look at all the other universities. USF had some very interesting Western Civ courses. And so if amenable, we're able to look at some of those other courses and say, okay, that would be a great course that would fit our liberal arts. But I'll get with you and update you on where that stands.
Meaning the BOG has approved our framework, but now we could actually determine particular courses in that framework.
That was approved trustee level and Board of Governors level. But it's amendable. You can come back and take out courses or add courses for the following year at any point in time.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Kessler?
Yes, I wonder if we could have an update on the Freedom Institute. It was mentioned earlier, but what sort of timeline are we proceeding on?
This legislative session, Trustee Kessler, so the governor in his recommended budget put $3 million non-recurring towards the Freedom Institute to get it off the ground. And it's very persuasive, obviously, when the governor puts it in the budget. And then the legislature, both the House and the Senate, require you to get sponsors for those projects, and they have to work it through the appropriations process. Our local Senator Jim Boyd, who's the next Senate president, is sponsoring our Freedom Institute $3 million. And on the House side, Fiona McFarland, our representative, is sponsoring it. So we feel very strongly about both of their sponsorship. And so and then there's language that we've drafted and are working with staff that we've patterned off of the institutes of other schools like the Adam Smith Institute at FIU. So our hope is that we would get that $3 million startup money, and we would have the statutory language, and then we would launch it right away as soon as we got the money in July.
You mean you would begin to hire faculty, associates at that point, or?
That is correct.
Sign faculty associate?
Yep.
But does that mean it's still subject to us determining a particular mission for the Institute, right?
We're still using the original one that I think 2 years ago we presented.
As I recall, it was extremely broad.
It was extremely broad, Trustee Spalding.
So we could refine that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll send you the statutory language to all of you guys, and if there's some specificity or something, now would be the time. Session starts in March, so we got plenty of time to make changes. But we
And if
we
this
did
goes
keep it.
forward, this would.
We did keep
if
it a
this
little
goes-
broad.
What's the schedule?
Session starts in March. It will be finished by the
No,
first.
if it goes forward, when would this Freedom Institute begin?
Well, if the legislature funds it, the governor doesn't veto it, then the effective date is July 1st.
Any other questions for President Corcoran? Okay. At this time, we're going to address the approval of New College of Florida's 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 undergraduate academic calendar. I would like to recognize David Rancourt. Oh, well, come on up. We'll have David Rancourt, Vice President of Enrollment Management and Vice Provost, present this, but at this point in time, you've received the materials. I'd ask somebody, please, for a motion to approve the 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027 undergraduate academic calendar.
Motion to approve the.
Thank you, Trustee Carp. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's a tie between Don Patterson and Trustee Kessler. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Now let's have some discussion. Mr. Rancourt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Trustees, it's a true pleasure to be here today to submit this for your consideration. While not one of the more exciting things going on following so many wonderful things we've heard today, one of our duties that we must complete. I do want to take a moment to share with you that this is one of those moments where the President referred to where there was tremendous collaboration and discussion between all parts of campus. In particular, I want to thank our Provost who's here today, Professors Nova Myhill, Alberto Portugal, and Manu Lopez in the Provost's office. They've been hard at work at this for about 6 months. And there's a lot built into this calendar. It's not just selecting dates that we think work. We're looking at satisfactory academic progress, seat time, financial aid, registration, housing, billing, and financial issues. So there's a lot that goes to it, and we try to balance all of these things. You will note that there is a little extra time built into this calendar, in particular in the fall. And after 2 years of recurring hurricanes, we've sort of figured that we might want to build a few days where we're not stretched for seat time to make sure our school and our students are compliant with the federal guidelines for financial aid, as well as seat time. So this has been approved by the EPC, and it has been voted on yesterday, in fact, by the full faculty committee with support. So I'm very pleased to report that this has gotten that great support from all members on campus as well as the administration. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rancourt, any discussion? Yes? Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Mickelson beat you out.
Yes, I'm
Trustee
afraid so.
McDonald?
Apologies.
She's first.
I have heard concerns from students and faculty about changes to the length of the independent study term. This year, the term was 19 working days, and the proposed academic calendar for 26 and 27 ISPs would have 14 days for students to collaborate with professors on their projects. This is a 26% decrease from previous years. And I was wondering, since seat time is so important during this really short term, do you expect students and professors to cover the same amount of material?
There's a lot to that question. First of all, I think it was brought up yesterday that, should we reconsider the credit hours for the ISP, reconsider the ISP in itself. An ISP in most of the Northeast colleges is called a Jan term typically. When you've got 4 days, 4 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours of daylight, it makes a lot of sense to be creative in January. We don't have that problem in Florida, but it is a unique thing to New College in our university system. It causes a lot of stress for our students because we end our semester later in the spring. For those who need internships and jobs, they're a week or 2 and sometimes 3 weeks later than their peers at other universities. So a full examination and review of the ISP, I would say, is in order. I would defer to the provost to kick that conversation off. And that was acknowledged yesterday in the faculty meeting. This is not a perfect calendar. I don't know that one can exist, but I recognize that that is a shorter period of time, and we will need to address that as far as the credit hours go. But no, it's not going to be possible to complete 17 or expected to complete 17 or 19 days of work in 14. So we will need to make some adjustments there. It's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee McDonald, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. You're right. There was a lot of work that went into this, and I'm thankful to everyone who participated. The faculty vote was 25 to 17, with many, many people abstaining. Now, the reason that that happened is that this is, it turns out, a super complicated issue. And the reason it's complicated is that it changes parts of our academic program that will have downstream effects. So, for example, shortening the ISP impacts whether or not students actually learn to work independently, and the entire purpose of the ISP is to get them up to the point that they can actually write a thesis. So what you're actually doing when you do these kinds of things is undermining the features of the New College program that make it distinctive, that allow us to deliver on our institutional statutory mission, right? Like I said, it is very complicated. I'm not trying to say that there's a clear-cut case one way or another, but we've changed the calendar in the past, and it has had significant downstream effects on our academic program. There are other examples. This is just the most recent. Maybe I'll have more to say about that later, but when you're voting for this, please think about what's going to happen later with respect to the distinctive mission of the college and the features of the program that make it what it is.
I'll just say, Trustee, we love the distinctive model. The provost loves the distinctive model. This is the reason it's before you right now is because the timelines between submitting it to the Board of Governors, we have to do it, but you can change it. And we have basically 11 months to figure out how do we perfect this and still absolutely protect the distinctive model that has been very successful in the past.
Thanks. I understand that. It's just that when we change things under a deadline, it takes a hit out of the faculty and out of the students. It actually affects faculty morale. And I have lots of examples where I can kind of demonstrate that to you. I understand we're under a time crunch, but I think it's really important to just acknowledge the fact that what we're doing has downstream effects on what makes us different and valuable.
Agreed.
Any other discussion?
But can I just ask a question? So the majority of the faculty was in favor, though, of the plan that the associate provost presented?
The majority of the voting faculty. There were many abstentions. There were 50-some people in the room. There was a 25 to 17 vote. It's a complicated issue, and people fall on different sides of it. People of goodwill fall on different sides.
Professor McDonald, I have a quick question because you've been here quite a long while. How long was the ISP period, if you remember, when you started?
When I started, it was 4 solid weeks, and people didn't worry about whether or not, you wrote the, you wrote your evaluations during spring semester. At least I did. Maybe I was breaking the rules though. So I guess I probably am not the person to take as a template for the way to get things done. I want my students to work as much as possible. I want them to be, and the reason is really simple. They have to be able to write a thesis at the end. And if they don't get these types of big investments in independent study, they just can't do it.
My recollection from my very long-term memory was that I think we had 6 weeks. So just
the whole contraction.
Just throw that out there. Okay, we've had a motion and a second. I don't see any other discussion. Hands raised. Can we do a voice vote, please?
Roll call.
Roll call. I'm sorry. Roll call. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Trustee Anderson, Trustee Bauerlein,
Yes.
Trustee Jaco,
He said yes. I saw his.
Trustee Hart,
Yes.
Trustee Kessler, Yes. Trustee McDonald,
No.
trustee Mickelson,
No.
trustee Patterson,
Yes.
trustee Rufo,
Yes.
trustee Spalding,
Yes.
Chair Jinks.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rancourt. Next, we have the Florida Police Benevolent Association Collective Bargaining Agreement. I would ask for David Brickhouse, Vice President,
Fitzpatrick.
Legal
you
Affairs, to
skipped.
come forward.
Oh, I'm sorry, trustee Mackey. I apologize.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Motion carries. At this point, can I have a motion, please, to approve the collective bargaining agreement?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson. Okay, Mr. Brickhouse, can you tell us?
Thank you, Madam
Discussion
Chair.
purposes,
Before
what
you
we're doing.
have request for the ratification of changes to the current collective bargaining agreement between New College of Florida and the Police Benevolent Association, as recommended by the college's management representatives. This is for fiscal year 24-25. So previously this year or last year, you had voted on last fiscal year's CBA. This is for the fiscal year starting in July of 24. And so with this action, it would put us current where we're supposed to be in terms of the negotiating process. It reflects a 5% increase for eligible employees effective July 7th. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
We've had a motion and a second. Are there any questions? You've received the material in your packet. No questions? Okay, so let's do a roll call vote on this motion, please.
Trustee Anderson, trustee Bauerlein,
Yes.
trustee Jaco,
Yes.
trustee Carp,
Yes.
trustee Kessler,
Yes.
trustee Mackey,
Yes.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Mickelson,
Yes.
trustee Patterson,
Yes.
trustee Rufo.
Yeah.
Trustee Spalding,
Yeah.
Chair Jinks,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Cristaldi had to drop off.
Okay, yes, I
Motion
saw that.
passes.
Thank you. All right, motion carries. All right. We now have an update on the post-tenure review. And again, I will tender this to Mr. Brickhouse, Vice President, Legal Affairs, and please update the board on this issue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During the last Audit and Compliance Committee meeting, there was a request from some trustees to provide a quick update on the post-tenure review process. As the board may recall, the Board of Governors regulation prescribes a very specific process in which to review all members that are tenured every 5 years. And so this provides a very specific process that all members of the state university system must comply with. It requires a comprehensive performance review every 5 years. I would note that this is an administrative review that is overseen by the president. So no vote is required by this board, but you'll obviously be kept appraised by the president. To give you a brief overview of where we are in the process, the candidates to be reviewed were selected last semester. I believe there's a total of 18. The selected faculty are currently in the final steps of preparing their files for review. These files are initially reviewed by a faculty advisory committee, and that committee just provides a list of strengths and weaknesses of each of the candidates. This will be completed no later than April 21st. Then the applicable division chair will review those files as well as the recommended and make a recommended ranking for each candidate to the provost. That will occur no later than May 9th. The provost will then, with guidance and oversight of the president, review the full files and recommendations of the division chairs and make a final determination of the performance rating of each of the faculty members. Happy to stand for any questions.
Trustee McDonald, any questions?
No, I think I asked my questions during the audit meeting. Thank you.
President Corcoran, any comment?
Sorry.
Anything else?
Trustee Spalding.
Trustee Spalding,
I
yes.
have a general question. As I understand, I mean, so if there's a case in which someone's tenure is to be reviewed for an up or down decision, given that the board actually gives tenure in the first place, why would that not come to the board? If the recommendation is to actually take away someone's tenure, for instance, or remove them.
So that's determined by the Board of Governors regulation that all the SUS schools have to comply with. And so there's a separate process for granting tenure on the front end that is done by this board. And then there's an administrative review that's overseen by the president to determine a comprehensive performance review based off of statutory and Board of Governors regulation criteria, as well as additional criteria that the college itself puts forward. And so then there's a required report from the president to the board of the outcome of that.
And I'm sorry, so at no point do we ever vote on removing tenure.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part of your question.
And so at no point is this board to vote on removing tenure.
That is correct.
Strikes me as an odd rule.
That's not a decision that you or we made. That was a statewide
No,
decision.
I understand. Usually the grantor is also the removor.
Trustee Bauerlein.
Trustee Bauerlein, yes.
Did we discuss having an outside reviewer participate in the process?
We did. I think we had conversation of that. That's certainly within the president's prerogative to do and can exercise that without any additional action needed.
Any other questions? Oh, okay. Thank you for the update, Mr. Rickhouse. And with that, I think we're.
There's no new business.
There's no new business. Yes, Trustee.
So I have a little bit of new business, if that's all right. It's connected to what I discussed during the discussion of the calendar, where we make small changes to our program, and those things then kind of percolate through our system and have downstream effects that are difficult to predict, right? This is happening a lot in our academic program. It's having an effect on the morale of the faculty, not just the old dogs like me, but a lot of the new faculty also. I can give you examples if you like, but this is probably not the time for that. The time for that is in an academic affairs meeting, committee meeting, and we haven't had one in a long time. Again, when the morale of the faculty plummets, their engagement plummets, and our ability to deliver on our statutory mission becomes compromised. We need to have these meetings and talk about what's happening to our program, fix some of the small things that perhaps will make a big difference. Something for the board to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald. Okay, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.